Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
This is just weird. This is weird. So she is a licensed psychotherapist, intuitive therapist, a coach, hypnotherapist, trainer, author. And we've gotten together before, but we've always said, there's some synchronicities going on there. And before we jumped on here air today, she said that. And she says, it was my birthday. And I'm like, whoa, when's your birthday? And she said, it was the 5th. And I said, that was my mom's birthday. Like, what are the chances of that? And my daughter's birthday is the day after that. I have more Aries women in my world. You have no idea. I mean, I could look, if I start thinking, I can make a list. It's crazy.
And last week we were talking about how you see these numbers.
Yeah.
And I was telling you that on my birthday, there were synchronicities that included numbers. So yeah, we have a lot to talk about, but here's another number, right? And coincidence, right? And I don't usually talk about synchronicities and coincidences. It's just happening that we're talking about them, and you have a lot of them in your life. So,
and it's funny, I paused when you paused.
Yeah,
because I have a Post-it note and a pen. I was going to write down the numbers. I wasn't even kidding. You said there's other numbers. I'm like, all right, let me get these numbers. Let me see what they mean.
Oh, neat.
I don't know. I don't know what you got there.
I don't remember what the numbers were. Somebody told me them. So, okay. But it's an interesting story. And it seems to be tied together around the time of the eclipse, which is also interesting, the solar eclipse. So don't know if that means anything, but it is interesting. Again, is that a coincidence?
Well, tell me about your eclipse connection. It seems like there's something going on there.
Well, a few days before the eclipse, there started to be these synchronicities happening. And I'm not accustomed to having a lot of synchronicities happening at one time. All of us have once in a while. It's like, oh, that was the timing of that was like, that's like weird how that happened, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but I don't have them on a regular basis. I have them like everybody else once in a while and kind of think, oh, well, that was interesting. Anyways, it started, I had my esoteric knowledge revealed seminar. And these were people who are already have shifted with me, and they're like more they're living on a more consciously high level. And so I was talking with one of my clients who had gone from being in a really terrible relationship, had been extremely depressed actually for years. And she'd been working with me for 4 months. And now she's out of the relationship. She's super happy on a deep level, did major healing. And she'd been waiting. She wanted to move out. She had a roommate. She wanted to move out and was waiting. And we were waiting until the contract is signed, sealed, and delivered, I keep like more balanced and don't get really excited until it's done. So we're waiting and we're talking about it in her session on the phone, and we're about to get off. And all of a sudden she said, Bonnie, wait 1 minute. I go, okay. She goes, they said, you've got it. It's done. You've got the apartment and it's completed. So, okay. So that was neat, right? I mean, I was so excited for my client, but I didn't really think about synchronicities. Then fast forward on my birthday, a few days, it was incredible. My birthday, I'm really like, I love my birthday because the people I love the most come and they come and we see each other, or they call me. So I love it. So I was super happy. I mean, like, I'm happy anyways, but my heart was just totally bursting with joy and love. Anyways, of all the days, my computer ends up not working. And I had to get into my computer and it wasn't working. So with computers, you don't want to have it last for too long where it's not working. So I called the person who usually fixes my computer and he wasn't available. And so I ended up basically didn't even know where to go. And I got in my car and I just started driving. And I drove to one store I knew that I thought maybe it was there. And there were some people outside selling. It's a long story. I don't know if should I go through the story?
Well, we're already halfway there. And by the way, if you subscribe to it, we're in a Mercury retrograde right now, hence the technological issues that can pop up. Things from your past come back. Synchronicities happen. I'm not even surprised about the computer thing.
Wow, that's neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I never had computer problems. it was almost like the computer having a problem is what got me outside to have all these incredible experiences within like an hour and a half. So I go to this one place, and there was people who had a booth. They were raising money for suicide prevention. And normally I'd give to something like that, but I was so focused on getting the computer and finding out where to take the computer. And I asked the person who was there, do you happen to know where they can, fix computers? He told me Best Buy's does it. And I said, do you know where it is? And he didn't know because he's not from this area. So I went, and to make a long story short, I was just driving around, and I ended up finding the Best Buys. And I walked in, and everyone was like, you had to sign up to be, for an appointment. They made time for me. They gave me, they said they couldn't fix it, but they told me to buy a mouse there. I bought a mouse there. And I said, okay, I'm here already, so I'll go to the market. And so do some marketing. And I said hi to the greeter. I walk into the market. I'm carrying my computer because the thing is that I've heard of people break into their cars and take their computers, and I didn't want to take a chance with my computer. So I went in, did my shopping. There was someone there who seemed kind of down, and I said, I know this is really unusual. Like I said, how are you? And she goes, I said, I know this is unusual, but are you okay? I'm a therapist. Are you all right? She goes, yeah, I'm okay. I said, you want to talk about it? She goes, no, I'm okay. So then I'm checking out, and I'm pushing my card on one hand. I'm carrying my computer on the other. And as I'm leaving, the greeter says, do you need some help? And I go, that would be really nice. Are you sure? And he goes, yeah. Turns out he's a computer whiz. He ends up looking at my computer, and he ends up fixing the computer. And I said to him, you're not going to believe it. Like, thank you so much. It's my birthday. And I'd been talking with him about his life too, and what he's going through. And I was being like, supportive of him, and he's on a spiritual path as well. And so he said, can you hold on 1 minute? I go, sure. And so he goes and he comes back, and he has a bouquet of flowers for me. And he says, happy birthday.
Wow.
And then I'm in my car, and I go back to the place where they were, I wanted to give money to donation for the suicide prevention. And I went there, and the guy was really surprised I came back. And he said, and I told him, thank you so much, because you told me about Best Buys. I got my computer fixed. He goes, where is it? Can you tell me where it is? Because my phone needs fixing. And so I go, great. And I told him where it was. So he's happy. Now he can go and get his phone fixed. And then I went to one other place, because that guy that I met at the market, I had this idea of maybe offering some type of a seminar for people, a certain type of seminar. And so I drove by to like where my gas station is, because there's a guy there that I've had conversations with. And I thought to myself, it would be perfect if he was outside, because I didn't have anything to do to go inside. I just wanted to quickly let him know my idea and see if he's interested, to invite him. And he's outside. I said, I just thought to myself, it would be really great if you're outside. And he's never been outside. I go to that place a lot. And he says, and he didn't look surprised. I said, you don't seem surprised. And he goes, no, he says, I see numbers all the time. And I saw 2 today. And so when I see numbers, this kind of thing happens.
Wow.
And so that was my hour and a half, one thing after another. And it was like I got all these birthday presents, and I was able to give a lot to different people. And my computer, it's almost like it was broken, so I could go out and have this experience, because who gets their computer where it's not working at all, and all of a sudden it's fixed?
By some random stranger, even after you went to a store. I don't believe there are any coincidences. And there probably was a reason you met that man. You may have changed his life and you don't even know it. He helped you. There it is. Synchronicity at its finest. Wow. I'm not I'm not surprised, but I just love how it all works together.
I know. And it's been an incredible week. I just finished my book, and it's ready to be printed and coming out for release in a few days, my Freedom from Addiction book. So that's really exciting. And it's just
I want to with the word addiction, interesting. Mm-hmm. I did a retreat I might have shared with you 3 weeks ago, and they looked at different things that are addictions, but not in the true sense that we think. Addictions and commitments. And addictions could be, you could be addicted to always giving of yourself when you didn't take care of yourself. All of those things, you write down what you think those are and your commitments. And the goal is you want to make them all commitments. And when we think of the word commitment, we think, oh, that's going to be a time suck. I don't have time for that. But it's really not that. If you have, and how many of us want free time? We all want free time, but we look at that whole thing of commitments and say, I'm not going to have any free time. But that's what is piloting your life and making your life more fruitful. It was an interesting look at the word commitment, addiction, because addictions are substance. We think of those, could be sex addiction, whatever it is. But there's also that word can also transcend to other things in our lives that could be addictions that we don't realize that they are.
It's an interesting perspective. I mean, I think that part of healing and part of ascension is being in balance. And if your giving is out of balance with receiving, then you're not able, it's not healthy. And so making commitment to yourself to be more in balance is tied together with the whole shift. So there's lots of areas that are out of balance, and being aware of it, then you're able to actually be consciously involved with your own ascension and your own growth. So I would say, and that's about making commitment to making those having that kind of awareness and making those kind of changes in your life and putting your precious energy, I call it precious energy, right? Which is something that I've kind of coined the phrase. Do you want to hear my definition?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So we all have a certain amount of energy and time, and it's precious because it's our own, and it's finite. And that's the energy we use to create our lives, and we get to choose how we use it. So it's important to choose wisely. And so if it's powerful, it's so powerful because so many people, they spend time with people who are just taking their time or not treating them well, and they're using up so much of their precious energy defending themselves, or they're doing all these things that they think they should do. And so then they're really tired and they don't have any precious energy and time left to have the commitment for themselves, going back to what you were saying. I'm sorry,
please. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please.
I wanted to, you have the book coming out, but you also have a book that has been out, and you said it's a workbook and a journal. And I heard the word journal, tell me more.
Yeah, so I have it here to show you because I mentioned it to you before we start talking. So can you guys see? This is the book, and it goes with the journal. It's Experiencing the Shift, a new way of thinking, seeing, and being, which is what we've been talking about our last few times we've spoken together.
Sure.
So the new, and that talks about I'll tell you about the book in a sec, but the new book, Freedom from Addiction, it's the same. It's basically the same book, but it's done specifically for people who are dealing with addictions, any kind of addiction, because this process I created, it's for everything in life. So anything you're dealing with, it ends up addressing that and allowing you to shift through thinking differently, feeling differently, and then you act differently in the world. So that's the same thing with addictions. So I don't like using the word addiction, and I really never use it. And I never use the word addict. I look at it that whenever there's something that has control over us versus our being in control, that's what addiction is, which goes to what you were saying as well.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that people feel the best when they have a sense of control in their life, not being controlling, but that everything's in order. When we have something that kind of goes out of order, like my computer, right? It can throw us off a little bit, but if you're in balance, you're okay. But if you have some serious health things that come up, or some one thing after another, you start feeling really out of balance, and you start feeling like you're losing control. And so with any type of addiction, that's what it is. There's something or someone where they have control over you. Let's say you decide, I don't want to talk to this. I don't want this person in my life. You break up with somebody and you can't help yourself. You keep calling them. And then if they don't call you back, then you're totally, you're so overwhelmed and upset and crying all the time, but you know that you don't want to be with a person. Why is that? Because there's an addiction. There's something that is what you're giving the power to that person to be able to have that kind of control over you, versus you're being able to say, I don't want to be with this person, and maybe I miss them, or I miss the good thing. I miss the good things with them. You never miss the bad things, but you miss the good things. But you go anyways, or if you know that, drinking or vaping or whatever it is, that it's gotten to a point where this is like really like it might be disrupting, like hurting relationships. You might have lost relationships, you might have lost jobs, or you're worried about a job, all those things, or you've gotten DUIs or whatever it is, and that this is not for you've gotten to a point, this is not good for you. You don't want it in your life, but it has control over you. You might go for a few days or a few weeks using willpower, and you say, I'm not going to, I'm not going to drink, or I'm not going to smoke, or I'm not going to be whatever it is, or I'm not going to be with that person. And then sooner or later, it takes over. So this system of experiencing the shift, it's a whole different way of looking at taking your control back into your life to be able to use your precious energy in the way you choose to create the life you want. But it's a whole different approach. It's really different than anything that's out there.
I want to remind people your modalities and how you help others. I'm talking about hypnotherapy. You're an intuitive therapist, a coach, and all of that. So this is not just a book you wrote. There's more to it. Psychotherapist. There's a lot going on here. It's not just Bonnie said, I'm going to study a little bit of this. I'm going to put a book out. Oh, let me throw a journal in with that. By the way, I do want to ask you about the journal. Is that to journal your life? Is that a gratitude journal? What is that?
It's actually a workbook. So like, for example, what happened is I had been a therapist for many years. And there was this one week when I had a number of new clients that came in. And a week later, when they came in, they go, Bonnie, I don't know. I shared it with you last time. I don't know what you did, but things are so different. I don't understand what happened. And I went home and I thought to myself, what am I doing? And I realized that I'd basically channeled this process. And so I started writing the book. And as I started writing the book, then I ended up in the book, I actually say that you're writing in your journal. So I stopped writing the book and I wrote the journal. Then I kept writing the book. And I thought this would be really cool to do this as a workshop and have people hypnotized and experiencing what's going on in the book. So I stopped writing the book and I created workshops. And then I ended up deciding, I really need to get my book out. So I broke it up into 3 parts. I got book 1 out of the series. And so that's what I have here. And then with the freedom from addiction, it's like so many people would be coming to me for years and years and years. They'd had something that was in control of them versus they're being in control, and they tried and tried and tried. And then they'd come to me, and all of a sudden, like, the urge would go away. I mean, the urge would go away, which is like, it's like amazing to me. But I know what I'm doing that creates it, and I'm doing it with my clients, so they're consciously involved in it. And they're shifting profoundly in their life. So this process works whether you have there's something that has control over you or not. It's about an ascension process.
What's your advice to somebody knows they've identified that something has control over their life? Don't want to call it an addiction, but because it may it may be something that's a control of your life that's not in the traditional sense. But
but it can be in the but we can look at traditional. I think it's important to look at the traditional sense because so many people have alcohol, drugs, relationships, sex, smoking. I mean, there's just gambling, video games. I mean, and what it is underneath it all is that people are disconnected from their true self. They disconnected when they were young. And they were in pain. And we're not this is my point of view. And we're not supposed to be in pain for prolonged periods of time. And they didn't know how to feel better. And often the people that you turn to when you're not feeling well are your parents. And often it's the parents. Usually it was the parents that it was coming from. And so they didn't know what to do. And so, like, for example, with a lot of different things where you end up, so I'm going to just use, an example I use in my book is if somebody is like 15 years old and they're going to, they had a fight with their parents, they're going to a party, they're at the party, someone offers them a drink. They said, okay, they down the drink, and all of a sudden, all the thoughts, all the upset, all the pain is gone. And so they go, wow, this is amazing. It took away the pain. And when you do that a number of times, and if it's something that has an addictive quality about it, then you end up not being able to choose any longer. It's like you can say, okay, I'm not going to have a drink today. And it's like, but you have it, or I'm not going to have sex with that person because every time I feel terrible afterwards, but you have it. right? It's because there's pain inside and you're numbing it up and it temporarily takes away the pain. Like when you're with somebody and and you're looking for love and it's just sex for the person, and then you feel empty. At least at the moment though, you feel totally loved. You feel like they totally love you. Okay. And so it fills that. But then afterwards, when they don't call you, it's like you feel even worse than before. And the same thing with all the other things, they work temporarily. They get your mind off of the pain. They get the physically, it makes it so the pain doesn't go away, but it's temporary. And that's why with the shift, whether it's anxiety or depression or feeling overwhelmed all the time, the shift makes it so that you're able to, by connecting with your true self and healing from the past and using the different tools, and I call them gifts that are in the process, you're able to be really happy in life. And then if something comes up, you know how to deal with it. And you don't have the pain from the past that you're bringing into the situation. It makes it even more painful. You're just dealing with the situation, but you have an appreciation and love for yourself, and you're in balance to start with. And then you know how to, there's a healthy way of grieving, or there's a healthy way of dealing with different things that come up, which are also part of the process.
You said something before that really that was an aha moment for me, and I want to make sure I heard it right. That most of us, because we've dealt with something, and I believe we've all dealt with something in our past, typically our childhood, that we're disconnected. We go through life as adults disconnected. We're not really connected to our true self. And when it's almost as if you're wearing a rubber suit and things are just bouncing off of you and they're not penetrating, getting into
Right.
you. You're not really
Right.
living your life. You're not
No.
living an authentic life. You're kind of just going through the motions. And that's why relationships fail, things fail, because you haven't figured it out yet. Um, and how to deal with things, because it's almost as if you're numb. You're going through life numb.
And
I
that's
never,
why
I
the
never
first
thought of it that way.
Yeah, and I know that's why I said it's a different perspective I have. And so
Yeah.
what happens is I'm blessed to have a gift that when I meet people or talk to people right away, I can see their true self and see who they are. And I can see which things are getting, what to do in order to help them, to make it possible for them to reconnect with their true self, which they do really quickly. And
Hmm.
then that's when I'm able to see which things are out of alignment, which thoughts they have that are leading to choices that they were making that lead to more unhappiness coming into their life. But it starts with reconnecting with your true self. And most people are actually walking around disconnected from their true self. And that's what the shift actualization process is that
Wow.
it's a process that really works. And it works because I start out with seeing the person, helping them, being able to show them who they are, and they see it. They see it. And
Wow.
everything I do, I talk with them and I show them things so they become more aware and more conscious of what they're doing, what they're thinking, why certain things are happening. And they keep getting these aha moments. You've mentioned it last time we were talking, and now too, because it's a new way of thinking. And so when you think differently, it's like all these things open up that you didn't, and then you're able to take all this knowledge you have in other areas that you've been trying to apply to situations, and it's just not working. And all of a sudden, it's like it all clicks together. And that's part of the reason the whole thing happens so quickly for most people.
Well, I see it clicking together. For me, I became more spiritual. I'm more aware of things. I'm more, I guess, plugged in with myself. Work in progress. We're all on a journey. It never ends until the end. But then again, I don't think you end. But that's a whole different podcast.
No, not
Wow.
really. No, not really. Because the thing is, the shift, once you're connected with, you said, got plugged in, which means that at some point you started reconnecting with your true self. And I know we spoke about it last time too, where you're
Totally.
now taking time where you're just with yourself, which you didn't do before for most of your life, from what I think you were
Yeah.
saying. So
Yeah.
you got replugged in, you're reconnecting with yourself. What's cool is that I'm able to save people so many years of suffering because that's why it's an accelerated process. It happens so quickly because I'm able to see this with somebody and show it to them. And I know how to do the reconnection if the person wants it and it's both of us doing it together. But I'm like a guide, like I know how to guide the person to all these things. And then you said, and it goes on, no, because the thing is, I say the book, what happened is I was writing the book originally, and I wrote about 100 pages, just kind of like more like a self-help kind of book style. And all of a sudden I got this thing that was telling me, and I've realized I'm connected and I have a very strong intuition. We were talking about intuition last time. And it was like saying, no, write it in a creative style. And I go, I don't write creatively. I mean, like I was a good student. I write well, but I never thought of being a writer. And I certainly knew that I wasn't a creative writer, but it wouldn't leave me alone. So I went back and I started writing the book like it's a story. And what I thought was, when my clients come to me, what it feels like to me is they're starting on a new path. They're not on the same journey they were. They're stepping on a new path.
Totally.
And when they step on this, so in the book, I start out that the person reading the book is actually walking on a path. And then they have all these different experiences as they're walking on their path.
Wow. We're out of time. This always happens.
Oh my God.
Will it go over again?
So quickly.
I know. Lots discovered here today, as always. Makes it clearer for me in a lot of this how we're just walking around numb because of things that happen in our past. And don't lie to yourself. Things happen in your past. You may not remember them. They may have not been huge, but they've impacted you, and it kind of dictate the way you act as an adult and react to.
It completely does.
Yeah, and situations.
Completely does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bonnie, how do we find you? And even the book that you have out now, is that on your website? It is. I see it up here now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So BonnieBarness.com. And my new book is going to be there in 3 days. And my other books and workbooks are there. So, and people can sign up for my esoteric knowledge workshop if they're interested in things like synchronicity, the Kabbalion, which are the Hermetic principles, 7 Hermetic principles. If they're interested in intuition, if they feel they're an empath, all those kinds of things, we're talking about all of them.
And by the way, and we got to go, but I want to share with you some other Aries in my life was an I think there are many, but she specifically was an empath, and that's a whole story for another time. And she was an Aries.
This was somebody in your life?
Yeah, about a year and change ago.
Oh, so you're saying that's another connection?
Oh, another Aries. Oh, 100%. And
Aries?
Another Aries. And she was in my life for a reason. She's still around, but not in the same role, but for another day. Bonnie, great talking with you.
Thank you.
It's BONNIE, Barness, BARNESS.com. Great catching up. Happy couple of days after your birthday. And
thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
And
okay?
your mom's birthday and your daughter's birthday. Happy birthday to them.
Thank you. All right.
Mom, yeah.
Thanks. All right. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Bye. Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.